One Piece chapter 1009 has dropped and we get back to the rooftop. People, the rooftop pirates are back and they are in action. Plus we had a bunch of other crazy stuff going on, but first let me remind you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and there will be a poll down below for you guys to answer about this week's chapter. One Piece is on the cover of Shonen Jump this week, and we also get a nice color spread, so we got a 2 for this time. And the color spread is awesome. Now I pretty much love all the color spreads. Each one, whenever it comes out, I usually add it as a wallpaper for my computer. But this one I really like because it has the style element to it. All the characters have their own styled jackets, except for Robin, who seems to just have an old jacket, but in her style. Special mention to Frankie's, I love his, it's fantastic. We start with the Beast Pirates trying to put out the fire with the hose. One, I don't know where they're getting the water from considering Onishima's floating. I guess it is a huge island and it could have some kind of water supply, but I just found that kind of weird. But mainly, the thing about this is that it's what I said before in that no one but the fodder care about the fire. So basically the Beast Pirates trying to put it out, the Scabbards don't care, Orochi and Fukurokujo don't care. You know, no one's going to care about this because no one's going to be hurt by this. So I'm not really sure why they're still focusing on the fire, unless it's really going to have a big impact later on. Speaking of the Scabbards, we get an immediate confrontation between them and Orochi. Now, Orochi views them as weakened because he knows they fought Kaido. He goes into his hybrid form and he's immediately taken out by all of the Scabbards. I mean, no time to do anything. So once again, we're putting a staple on Orochi that he does not have strong combat feats. It really seems like his fruit is all for show, at least in his hands, and it's more of an intimidation tactic. You know, he has this ability to gain all his heads, grow to a monstrous form, but it's basically for intimidation. Once again, Orochi loses his head, or his heads, and he's out for the fight. Now, is he dead this time? I don't think so. Just because of what I can glean from the dialogue, which is Fukurokujo saying, "The Scabbards don't know you've met your demise once today." What I think this means is that, falling in line with the Yamato no Orochi lore, you either have to cut all the heads off at once, or you have to cut 8 heads off. I think all at once leans more towards the Hydra motif, and I think just cutting 8 heads off leads more towards the Orochi. And I also find it interesting that so far, from what it looks like in these panels, Orochi has lost 7 heads. We know that Kaido cut one off, and in this panel here we have Kinemon, Denjiro, Kawamatsu, Nekomamushi, Okiku, and Raizu taking heads as well. So if that's the case, that would mean Orochi has 1 more head left before he actually dies. To me, that would end up going to Momo once their final confrontation comes into play. You know, if it's every head, that might require the Scabbards again and Momo, but I think this is serving the purpose to show that Momo is going to be the one to finally put down Orochi. And as these Scabbards walk away from a defeated Orochi, we have Raizo and Fukurokujo squaring off. Now, I really like the banter between these two, and so far the banter between a lot of the characters here have been really good. You know, you have the banter between Jack and Inuarashi. You have even Kaido and Luffy. Just the back and forth, the dialogue between these two people fighting has been very solid, very sharp and strong hitting, and I really like it. But this also makes you think that as we move closer to getting to Momo, we're going to lose more and more Scabbards to some kind of fight or confrontation. Because it seems like we're getting them peeled off one by one, and I'm thinking that at the end of the day, maybe only Kinemon, or maybe Kinemon and Denjiro are the only ones to get all the way to Momo. And this would make sense if Oda has a plan to kill off some of the Scabbards, because we have Inu off with Jack, we have Raizo who's now here with Fukurokujo, and we can probably see a few more confrontations in which we might need a Scabbard to stay back in order for Kinemon and Denjiro to move forward. Now let's get to the meat of the chapter when we go back up to the rooftop. Before we even get into the action, Law drops some knowledge on us, which I think we've been somewhat debating. I feel like this is a known thing in the fandom, but I feel like it's been a debate as well since we haven't had full confirmation. But Law says that he can't interact with something directly if the haki is too strong. And this is kind of the idea we got from Virgo when Doflamingo is saying, you know, his haki was too strong for you in the past. What I think that was meant to imply is that if the haki is strong enough, it's going to effectively cancel out Law's ability. Now that's interesting because haki doesn't normally cancel out abilities just by existing. You know, there's some kind of contact, there's some kind of interaction with the Haki in the Devil Fruit that allows you to surpass it. So the fact that the Haki they're exuding, that just themselves, is strong enough to keep Law's powers at bay is pretty interesting. Now Kaido and Big Mom set up to do a combo attack, which I was never expecting to see from 2 Yonko, but here we are. And we get Ocean Sovereignty. Now the first thing I saw when I saw this panel was immediately the combo attack that Luffy and Zoro did in the Water 7 S Lobby arc, the 300-pound cannon. And I know it looks more like Dorian Bragi's attack, but that's the instant thing that it reminded me of, just because it's 2 really powerful people launching a crazy powerful move. And speaking of Zoro, he steps in to try and block the attack. Now I say try and block because while he did hold it off for a period of time, which is like 1 or 2 seconds, he still had to get out of the way, and he still took heavy damage from trying to block that. But it's a cool little panel in between Zoro blocking that where you see Law putting up his fingers to do the shambles move. And it's subtle, it's not noticeable, and he doesn't really say anything, but it looks like what happens is while Zoro's kind of taking that damage from the attack, Law has a time to switch everyone out of there. Again, Law playing his support role as best he can, and he's doing a fantastic job. But we see the attack fly through the back, and we see that pretty much the ground, everything behind that attack got knocked out, got destroyed. And while Zoro's pretty much coughing up blood by the end of this chapter, he doesn't stop at just trying to block that attack. He actually does more in this fight. But before we get to that, I want to talk about Luffy and Kaido, because Luffy immediately goes in at Kaido with a Red Hawk. One, I guess this is an indicator that Luffy has his Haki back, because Red Hawk is a Haki-based move. He may not be 100% with his Haki, but it looks like it's starting to come back, or has come back in some capacity. And interestingly enough, Kaido dodges it. I don't know if he does it unconsciously, I don't know if he's purposely dodging to not take any more damage, but he dodges the attack. And Luffy even calls him out on this, which is none more that banter I was talking about. But he's asking Kaido why he's dodging. And I wonder if there's something deeper to that. I wonder if in hybrid form he's not as durable as he is in his base form. I wonder if he actually still takes damage from, not necessarily normal attacks, but if the Haki is good enough, not necessarily like Ryu Haki, but just Haki in general, maybe he takes damage, so maybe he knows not to take attacks in this form. However, he doesn't miss the chance to seize the opportunity, and he goes in the offensive really quick. You know, he slams Luffy with his club, which, even though Luffy blocks with Haki, it does the thing that Katakuri was doing where Luffy's hands still really hurt, even after he basically picks up his block for that move. Which is crazy because it wasn't even a direct blow, it was Kaido's club. Kaido's club is doing that kind of damage. So I'm wondering if he actually wanted to punch Luffy, how would that look compared to Luffy's Haki? And we see a lot of interesting things from Kaido in the middle of this interaction with Luffy, because we see him change his form, we see him move around, we see the different kinds of mobility he has in his hybrid form, and it's really fantastic. If you look at some of the panels here, you can see that, you know, sometimes his tail grows larger. It looks like he shifts between having 2 legs and having a tail. You know, he flies up in the air and switches back. There's a lot of action in those panels that show just how he's utilizing his hybrid form. We see that he can use some form of blast breath while he's in hybrid form. Now, I don't know if this is the full version. It looks a lot more like Kizaru's laser than it does a blast breath, but I'm assuming it's blast breath all the same. And then we also get to peep this new move, Ragnarok, which it looks like Luffy takes completely. You know, we don't see his arm, so maybe he blocks it, but if the first block was any indication, it's not going to be strong enough to stop the damage from that attack. And if you look at Kaido's club, it almost looks like what Whitebeard and Roger did when they clashed. You just see Haki basically dripping off of it. It looks almost like lightning bolts connecting to the club, but you can see it kind of exude out the top of the club, just Haki pouring out. But now let's switch gears to Big Mom. We basically have the rest of the Rooftop Pirates fighting against her, trying to get her out of the way. I remembered I talked about this last chapter, in which if Big Mom has all her mobility options, there's no reason to separate them, and they take care of that this chapter. They first trap Zeus in a box, which I assume acts as some kind of Faraday cage or some kind of, basically it's a metal box that's keeping Zeus from going on the outside. There has to be some kind of reason why he can't turn into electricity and move throughout the box. I'm assuming it's because it's a Faraday cage, but I don't think we'll get a huge explanation for that unless that plot point comes up again. Then we have Zoro and Killer come in. Zoro takes care of Prometheus with his flame slice, and then Killer pretty much just scares Napoleon away, which it's not a huge deal because Napoleon isn't really a mobility type homie, so him being there, him not being there, I think that's why he kind of just runs away. There really isn't a reason for him to be completely taken out because he doesn't change much about the fight. Now here's where the teamwork really shines, because we have Kid going up against Big Mom with his punk pistols. Now, obviously the move doesn't do anything, and what's interesting here is that Big Mom does a direct punch to Kid's face, and he doesn't tank it. He's obviously hurting from that, but he's alive and standing. Big Father was taking punches from Big Mom, and Capone was bleeding after that, and he was basically about to die. And Kid's here taking a direct punch from Big Mom, and he's smiling about it afterwards. So I think this honestly is Kid's biggest feat of this entire fight. This is the best thing we've seen Kid do. Not to mention that he manages to get some metal on Big Mom so he can repel her upwards, which then allows Law to use tact, slam a rock into her, and push her entirely off the island. It's just a seamless amount of teamwork that, I don't know, I didn't expect it to happen that fast, and I didn't expect it to be that flawless, but the fact that they were able to come up with this plan, which I assume Law mostly did, and get Big Mom out of here, it immediately answered my question that I had last week, and in such a fluid way. There was no wasted time with that, and I appreciate that. And the chapter basically ends with Big Mom plummeting towards the sea off Onigashima. Now, how do I think things play out? Well, first off, I think Big Mom falling gives a perfect chance for the Big Mom pirates to come into play. They should still be in the water somewhere, to be honest, and they should be trying to get to Wano. Now, Onigashima, we've seen like the mountains of Wano come into view, so we should be pretty close to Wano as well. My guess is that Big Mom is going to fall near or on the Big Mom chanter, and she's going to be fine with her kids. But she just won't have the ability to get back up to Onigashima because it's flying high in the sky. She doesn't have Zeus, she doesn't have Prometheus. As far as the Rooftop pirates, Luffy, Zoro, and Kid all took heavy hits. Luffy got hit by Ragnarok, and we didn't see him the rest of the chapter. Zoro got hit with the Ocean Sovereignty, and while he mostly blocked and got out of the way, we see him coughing up blood at the end of this chapter, so it looks like he took a lot of damage from that. And then Kid took a direct Big Mom punch. While he wasn't knocked out or anything, I think that still did a lot of damage, so I think our top fighters took a lot of hits just to, separate Big Mom and Kaido. Will that be worth it? We're gonna have to wait and see, but I think for the most part, these top 3 characters are going to have to sit back a little bit, and we're gonna need more Law and Killer. And I fully expect us to go back downstairs. I don't know if we're going to do the same continuation that we had last time where we get multiple Rooftop chapters. I think we're going to see what's happening down below. Hopefully we'll see some of the Straw Hat fights. Hopefully we'll see what's happening with Robin. We'll see what's happening with Jinbei, which are really the only 2 I severely care about. Like, I do like Ulti in page 1, but I'm just not that interested in that fight because I think it's going to be an Usopp and Nami fight in the terms of which there won't be any actual fighting. It will mostly just be some strategy and schemes, which isn't a bad thing. I really want to see raw fights from these zone users. Those are my thoughts on the chapter. Again, I thought it was fantastic. I love the Rooftop chapters. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.